Now it is. Before we get underway, I would like to welcome everyone to the August meeting of the Irondequoit Zoning Board of Appeals. Before we get going, there's a few things I want to go over. First, the fire exits are to your left. In the event of a fire, please proceed calmly and in an orderly fashion down the stairs at either the north or the south end of the building. Michelle, our secretary, is taking minutes tonight for the purpose of a record, not a transcript. To help her identify who is speaking when you come to the podium, please identify yourselves by your name and your address, and please speak into the microphone. As I said, the minutes are not intended to be a verbatim record transcript, only to indicate the sum and substance of the proceedings. The meeting is being recorded by the ICAT department and broadcast on Spectrum Channel 1303. We follow the items in the order that they appear on the agenda. There are extra copies of the agenda available by the door. Once the case has been called, the applicant or their representative should come to the podium, identify themselves, state their address, pause and raise your right hand, be sworn, and then present your case. During the presentation of the case by the applicant, the zoning board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or engage in discussion. Once that process is concluded, then the case will be open for public input. Anyone wishing to speak to the board regarding the application should come to the podium and identify themselves and their address, and then direct any and all comments that they have or questions to the board, not to the applicant. Once the input portion has been completed, we have identified three categories of public input. The first is those who wish to speak in favor of the application. Then we have those who wish to speak in opposition to the application. And then we have those who want to talk to us about some aspect of the application, but aren't either in favor or opposed to the application. Once the input portion has been completed, the applicant or their representative will be given an opportunity to rebut anything that came up during the public input portion. Once that's concluded, then we close the hearing and move on to the next case. Once the cases have all been heard, the board will take a short recess and then return to deliberate each case in the order in which the applicants are still present. So if the first applicant has left and the second applicant is here, then the second applicant would be heard first, and we would go down for the applicants that are present in the order that they appear on the agenda. Then we would go back to the top and work our way down for those who are not here. You're welcome to stay and listen to the deliberations, but not to participate unless that is directly requested by a member of the board. If you wish to leave, but you're curious as to what the results are, you can find out by calling the Planning and Zoning Department tomorrow morning after 9 a.m., or you can watch any one of the multiple repeats, rebroadcasts of the meeting on Channel 1303. So, we can call the first case on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item on the agenda is case number ZB 2024-08-01, request by Image 360 Rochester, acting as agent for Episcopal Senior Life for an area variance to install a new post and panel non-illuminated sign with less than required front setback on premises 65 Brower Road in an R5 residential district.
Good evening. My name is Deb Herb. I'm representing Image 360 and the Episcopal Home. My address is 810 South Washington Street in East Rochester, and I am representing 65 Brower Road.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. So you'd like to replace an existing sign, I think, right?
Actually, there is no sign existing. It's a new
This is the new place. Okay.
Yes, So zoning requires that there be a 15-foot setback from the property, and there's actually only 12.2. It is 15 feet back from the right-of-way. So it's a little bit of a short.
What's the roughly 3-foot difference between the right-of-way and the property line?
That's the difference. It's 12.2 is the, if it's only, that's like 3 feet that we're looking to.
So the property line doesn't extend to the right-of-way edge?
Correct.
Who owns the 3 feet in between?
It's actually to the road, if you look at the map.
The property line is.
From the right-of-way or from the road to the sign where they'd like to post it is 15 feet. That's only 12.2.
From the right-of-way. Now I get it.
From the, yeah.
Okay, all right. So it's going to be 15 feet, it's just not 15 feet from the imaginary line.
Correct.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, hello, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
The neighbor next door, their driveway is right there where you're proposing the sign. Will that impede their ability to view oncoming cars coming down Broward Road?
It is a post and panel, and it is set back far enough that it will not impede their right-of-way. And there's also trees at that are going to be staying there, so they won't be affected by it.
Thank you.
That small tree that's in front, that's going to stay?
Yes.
Okay, and it's away from the pedestal for the utility there?
Yep.
It was hard to try to figure out, and I'm taking that little slot with the dots around it is the sign where it's going then?
Where I put the public hearing
Yeah.
photo, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public input. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about signs, setbacks, or anything like that that's neither in favor nor opposed to the application? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing and move on to the next case on our agenda. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next case on the agenda is case number ZB 2024-08-02, request by Noel Chavez, acting as agent for Tegan and Chris Palma for area variances to construct a second-story addition on a pre-existing non-conforming structure with less than required side and front setbacks on premises 360 Rock Beach Road in an R1 residential district.
You are?
Oh, sorry, excuse me. I'm Noel Chavez. I'm the architect for Mr. Palma and his wife.
And your address?
My address is 38 Nelson Street, Rochester, New York.
And would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Now you can present your case.
It's rather well, it's not straightforward, but the existing property was built in the early 60s, and I'm not sure at the time what codes were in force at that time. But currently, the existing garage, which is on the south side of the property, is within the setback limits for both the south side and the east side. And what we're looking to do is provide some more living space for the children, an extra bedroom and an additional bathroom as they get into their teenage years. And really the only place we could place those new living spaces was on top of the existing garage. The existing garage is a one-story garage with a very small attic space above. And what we're looking to do is, since the existing garage is not in compliance, we're looking for a variance to allow us to build on top of the garage to create the new living space.
So if I understand correctly, the new space on top of the garage isn't going to be any closer to the side and the south lines than the existing garage,
No, it'll follow the existing footprint of the garage.
going straight up from there.
Straight up, yes. There won't be any exterior entrances to the living space from the ground floor, so the only way to get to those, the new bedroom and bathroom, is from the existing second floor hallway, which is in the main house.
And I assume that it would be a somewhat significant decrease in the available living space if you were for that portion to comply with the setbacks, right?
Yeah, but right now, the only place for an addition would be on the north side, and for a lakefront property, that's usually not where people like to build.
What I mean is,
Yeah.
you would have a 28-foot indentation on top of the garage, right? If I'm reading this correct, the variance is requested is 28 feet for the front.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Basically, the current setback for the front is, basically, it's less than 2 feet.
It's 1.25 feet
Yes.
that's there now,
Yes,
and you want to keep that, but the code requirement is 30 feet.
right. Yes.
So
Okay.
in order to comply with the code, you would have to move this existing space 28 feet in towards the house,
Yes,
which would pretty much make it not existing living space additional because you'd only have a few feet, right?
yes,
Okay. And the same thing is true for the side.
yes.
Okay. The reason I ask that is because part of the requirement for an area variance is to show a practical hardship. And just saying, I want to go straight up is fine, but the other part of that equation is what compliance with the code would require. And it would require 28 feet less, which pretty much takes away most, if not all, of the existing living space that you're looking to add.
That's correct.
Okay, that's the hardship. Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't trying to give you a hard time.
No, I
Just
just,
trying to get
wasn't it?
the record
Yes.
clear.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll open this up to public input. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about adding living space and how you do it? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter. We'll move on to the next case on the agenda.
Next case on the agenda is case number ZB 2024-08-03, request by David Cron Miller for an area variance to construct an accessory structure with less than required side setback on premises 426 Rawlinson Road in an R1 residential district.
David Cronmiller, 426 Rawlinson Road.
Raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
I am looking to build a deck, a small roughly 10 by 10 deck off the second floor. The posts for the deck out of the, it'll be the northwest side of my house. The posts will be 3 feet from the property line. And the code is 5 feet. It'll be a railing structure. There won't be any access to the deck from the ground level. It'll be through the second floor of the house. A small balcony.
I'm trying to figure out what the setback is now from the side of the house on the west side. Is it 5 feet?
It is less than 5. The house is less than 5. That one It's kind of like a porch, you know, it's just only on the first floor. Porch is,
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry, I couldn't find the notation on the survey.
Right.
It's 3.1 feet.
there you go.
So you're looking to just
Just go straight from
be
3.1
flush with what's there now,
with the house. I'm not going past
kind of like
that.
the last application,
Sure.
just going up.
Yep.
All right.
When was the house built? Do you know?
Oh, off the top of my head, no. 60s, I believe.
It's not important. But that
Is
would
it
be,
in the-
Michelle, that'd be a pre-existing non-conforming. Okay, thank you.
The house, yes. The house, yes.
The existing house.
Are these posts going to be closer to the property line than the side of the house?
No, they would be right at, so the post itself would be a 6x6 post. So the edge of the post will be touching, so I suppose 6 inches, yes, to the property line. Because they'll be, the side of the post will be right up next to that existing,
So they're going to be abutting the house, not
right.
tucked in the 6 inches of the post, or 5.5, whatever. Five.
Yeah, 5 1/4.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yep.
So all you'd be seeing from the street would be the posts and the railing portion up on the top?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have an existing deck that's off the first floor, right?
Yes, I do.
With like a pergola thing on it, I think I saw.
Yeah.
And is this going to be extend over that deck, or it just comes up to the back of the house?
It'll be kind of over that deck.
All right.
That small portion of the deck, that smaller section of the deck, that's where the balcony will be.
I guess my question is, would it be possible to construct the deck in a way that it's totally within the footprint now?
I think I'd have to go in through the deck surface. That would be almost impossible. And try to create a new post there, which the deck, yeah, that would be tricky.
Yeah.
And then when you walked out on the first floor deck, you'd have a post right there in the middle of your deck, a little bit to the right, I guess.
Okay. I just wasn't clear on that.
Just want to, looking at your side view, I'm over here. It looks like the post is there and the deck floors out a little more. Is it still going to be 3 feet, or are you going out a little further?
The deck floor, I was going to make it exactly, okay, so the beam sits on top of the post.
Yep.
I was going to put the deck directly on the beam. I didn't want to extend out anymore.
Okay, so you're going to be,
Maybe a couple inches. I don't think I'm going to go, no.
okay, that's just the way the drawing is, it looks like.
Oh,
you're
it
gonna-
looks like it's like a 6-inch, yeah.
So the front of the joist, the west side of the joist, the long joists are going to be in line with the rest of the house, and everything else will be back inside the footprint of the house?
Yeah.
So are you doing this yourself?
Correct.
Sort of had that impression. Just so I'm clear, you're going to, the 6x6 posts are going to be adjoining the house and between the existing wall of the house and the western property line. And they're going to be going up to the second floor.
No, they're on the house. There's a ledger board. The joists come out from there. The 6x6 posts are at the 3 feet mark on the western side of the house, and they have a beam. So the joists sit on top of the beam and go into the ledger board, which is under the door.
What I'm trying to picture is if I stand and I'm looking directly down
Directly at the
the
house.
side of the house, once this deck is there, I'm going to see a couple of 6
Yes.
by 6 posts in line that are adjoining the house
Yep.
and between the wall of the house and the property line. So that's going to take you from roughly 3.1 feet on the survey to about 2.5 feet, right?
Yes.
At the top of that post, wherever it's cut off, is the flooring of the deck, the top surface of the deck that you'd be walking on. Does that end at the side of the house, or is that going to extend over the other 6 inches?
It will, the joists will, and it will probably the thickness of one pressure-treated 2 by 10 over. So we're talking 1.5 inches. And I will stop the flooring there. So it's equal with the beams.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
I think so. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. I met the gentleman on site today, and we walked around his house, and what he proposing is great. It's a great addition to the neighborhood. It won't obstruct anything there from the front. You won't even be able to see it. The deck that's on the bottom, ground level, you can't put posts in there because you have to really take up the deck to do it. And it's a very nice property, very nice addition. Of course, nobody will be able to see it but him because it's really in the back side of the house.
Thank you.
That could be the best part of the deck. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll open this to public input. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this application? Step right up, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Aniello. I live at 416 Rawlinson Road. I'm at the adjoining property,
To the
west.
west. Okay, so you're the one who's going to have the 3.5,
That's right.
2.5 feet closer.
I'm willing to suffer for my neighbor, yes.
Okay, all right.
Do I need to be sworn in or just make
Nope.
my statements? Okay.
The reason we swear in the applicant is because several years ago, we had an applicant that the board relied upon statements that were made by the applicant during their presentation. After we granted the relief that that applicant sought, it came to our attention that a number of the statements that the applicant had made that we relied upon were not entirely accurate. And we had no recourse in terms of the applicant presenting false or misleading information to us.
Okay.
The solution for that is, when the applicant is sworn, the applicant is then under oath, and then any false or misleading statements that they make are capable of being, if it's warranted, prosecuted for false and misleading or perjurious statements, depending upon the level of misleading information. So by doing that, we have built in a remedy in case an applicant makes misleading information. The public input portion is for people in the town or people who are affected by the application and the relief that's being requested to share their opinions with the board, and so there is no need to swear them under oath because we don't rely on your statements, we take them into account, but we rely upon the veracity of information that we get from applicants.
Understood. I've been living next to Mr. Crown Miller for about 7 years now, and I would trust him to do any contract work and construction on my own house, and I'm almost sad that he's, I don't want to say just a school teacher because they're very important, but he could make an easy living as a carpenter and general contractor. All the other work that I've seen him do is incredible, and I just wanted to put in my 2 cents as a neighbor that I'm excited for this deck to be built, and I trust his thoroughness and his capabilities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about decks or anything like that? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing. I assume you don't need to rebut anything that he said. All right. All right, so we'll close the hearing on that case, move on to the next item on the agenda.
The next item is an item for board action. It's the determination of the Assistant Building Inspector to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the interpretation of Town Code subsection 235-87C regarding a proposed home occupation on premises 1688 North Whitten Road in the R1 Residential District.
Hi, my name's James Fetzer. I live at 1688 North Winton Road. And I'm here because, as a hairdresser, I would love to have a salon in my own home. And being
Mr.
that...
Fetzer?
I'm sorry? Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry.
Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Okay. Proceed.
I got ahead of myself, sorry.
That's all right.
So in the code, it says that hairdresser is not allowed as a home occupation. And I would say that I feel that it should be, being that in the section B says home occupation shall include, and as you see doctors in there, counselors, and being a cosmetologist, I have a license for 25 years. I practice it. It's New York State level, and so I take great quality with the people that I be working with in the salon, in my personal salon, I should say. So if it was granted, then, I would be able to help those that I've been working with for the last 10 years. I was at Ulta Beauty for that long, and I just decided that I'm getting older and I want to just do my own thing on my own time. And being in North Winton, that neighborhood is a very kind area. The neighbors call it the quiet side of Winton. And I do have support from my neighbors. It's actually quite interesting. Linda and Paul, I'm trying to say, and Tanini, I believe that would be your brother, and I think that is so cool. I'm sorry? Inti. Okay. But just being able to have this experience, to have a salon in my home and then just take caring everybody would just be a dream come true. So I'd like that.
So this is kind of a different application than what we generally have.
Okay.
You applied for the home occupation permit, and you were denied because the code specifically says that hairdressers don't qualify for a home occupation permit.
Correct.
So your disagreement is really with the exclusion of hairdressers from home occupations under the town code.
Yes.
And this appeal, we're referred to as the Zoning Board of Appeals because applicants who've applied to the town for certain if relief or benefit, whether it's a special use permit, area variance, use variance, whatever it might be, they come to us as similar to an appeals court to say that we should allow them to do what they want to do without regard to the town telling them that they can't do it because of a code provision.
Okay.
So in the case where there's a statute, the code interpretation is what you're appealing to us, is did the town officials correctly interpret what's in the statute? And what I'm having a hard time with is that what you're saying, what I've heard you say, and perhaps I misunderstood you, what I think I heard you say is that you fall under the rubric of hairdresser, and that code says no to hairdressers for home occupation. You disagree and think that hairdressers should be allowed, like doctors and lawyers and other people who are allowed to have home occupations under the code, and you'd like us to say, okay, hairdressing's okay, despite the provision in the code that says it's not. Is that about it?
Yes.
Problem I have with that is we don't have the authority to amend the statute. Town board has passed this statute. I'm trying to, could be as far long ago as 1987, could even be earlier than that, I suppose, but it looks like from the history that it's was first put in December of 87. And at that point, the town board made a determination that for whatever reason, and I don't know the reasoning, that general office, business, professional services, computer services, doctors, counselors, bookkeeping, etc., studios, workspaces for crafts, fine arts, cooking, etc., direct sales, product distribution, and individual or small group instruction such as music lessons, etc., consisted of home occupations. But retail sales, firewood sales, firearms sales, medical or nursing home facilities, funeral home, restaurant, motel, hotel, rooming house, kennels, animal hospitals, mortuary, personal services, spa, piercing, tattoo, hairdresser are not included. Correct. And the town board can amend any statute that or ordinance that they've enacted and passed. We have to interpret it. So can you help us understand how you wouldn't fall under hairdresser?
I think hairdressing is a limited word when it comes to this profession.
Well,
Cosmetology,
except that it says personal services, and that includes spa, piercing, tattoo, hairdresser. So under the general rubric of professional services, I think your license indicates that it's a professional service license, doesn't it?
absolutely.
Okay. So do you see the difficulty that I'm having?
Because I'm not saying I have a license.
No, the town, you fall squarely under what the town board said is not a home occupation.
Right.
And in essence, what you want to do is amend the statute and say hairdressers are okay. Professional services should be allowed. We provide professional services along the lines of what doctors, lawyers, computer people, and the other people that you say are okay to work out of the house provide.
Correct.
Right, but that's a determination for the town board to make.
I would like you all to help amend it.
Well, we can't.
Oh, who's the town board? I'm sorry.
Town board is the supervisor and 4 town council people.
Okay.
All right? They meet here. They use the same facilities we do, but they meet on a different night. They have different authority than we do.
Okay.
All right? They can pass an amendment that says they amend that portion of the town code. I just lost it here, whatever the number is. And they can say that we amend the statute to provide that professional services such as tattoos, hairdressers, spas are allowed as a home occupation under, here it is, Section 235-8A, 7A. And they could move that from 7B to 7A, and then you'd be all set.
Okay.
I don't see how we can interpret the statute to move professional services, including hairdressing, from 7B into 7A, which is what you need. You need to be in 7A,
Right,
not in 7B.
correct.
I don't see how we can do that by interpreting the statute. Now, since it's not a permitted use under the ordinance, the only other way that you'd be able to do it would be to request a use variance. And that's a very difficult, high bar to meet. You have to show that you can't realize a reasonable rate of return on the use of your property unless you can open a hairdresser salon. That would mean that you can't sell your property and get a reasonable return without having your hairdressing salon in your house. You might be able to do it, I don't know. It would be difficult, it seems to me. So I don't presume to speak for the other members of the board, but the problem I have with interpreting the ordinance to effectively amend it is that we're overstepping the authority that we have as an appeals board. The town board, having created it, having passed it, can also change it. So what your efforts might better be directed at asking the supervisor or one of the town council members to introduce a resolution to amend to allow for licensed hairdressers to operate out of their homes. And I suspect, because as much as we would like to think that everyone complies with the statutes and the laws that are on the books and they don't just go off and do whatever they want without regard to it, I suspect there's probably a number of people who are doing hairdressing out of their homes that don't have a home occupation permit and have never asked the town if it's okay to do it. Same way people have put up fences without getting permits, same way people have done a lot of things. And then they come to us after it's already done and they say, geez, I didn't know, can I keep it? And we don't always say that you can. There have been some instances where we've had people that have had to take things down. So I'll let the other board members express their views, but unfortunately, I don't disagree with a lot of your rationale.
Thank you.
And I'm sympathetic. I mean, I had a home occupation permit that I used for about 12 years, all right? But I didn't have anyone come to the house for it. And I understand yours would be by appointment, and it sounds to me like it would be a very, low impact in the neighborhood. Doesn't seem to me that it would, create any additional traffic or burden on your neighbors, and your neighbors are all in favor of it. But the question is, can we just say, despite what the town board put in, we disagree, so you can do it? That's the problem I have. I'll open it up to the rest of the board to share their views. Sometimes I find myself doing a lot of talking and everybody else is sitting and,
They're agreeing with you.
yeah.
Has anybody advised you to go to the town board and ask for a zoning change?
No.
Okay, that's the proper venue for this particular case, because
Okay.
like the chairman said, we can't change the zoning code. That is done by the
So I
Town
go to the
board.
zoning code, or to the
we
people
could-
that you're-
we
Town board.
town board. We could grant you a variance, a use variance, but as he indicated, that's a long procedure. But I will tell you, a change to the zoning code takes a little while too, because there's public hearings and it has to go through several board reviews.
Okay.
So it'll be challenging to either way you go. But and right now, I agree with the chairman. My interpretation is that the building officer's interpretation is a correct interpretation.
I'll give you an example of one that would be clearly within our range of what we're allowed to do. The code provides that you, in the backyard and side yards, behind the rear property line, you're allowed to have a 6-foot-high fence. If you have a piece of property that slopes from one side to the other and goes down by, say, 1.5 feet, we could interpret whether or not the 6 feet is measured taking the entire fence into consideration, realizing that at one point it may actually be 7.5, but it won't be higher than what the 6-foot level is. That would be an interpretation of how the 6 feet applies to that sloping piece of property. But we couldn't just say, well, you want an 8-foot fence and they've said only 6, so we'll just ignore that and give you 8. Understood?
Yeah.
I hate to break that bad news to you.
Well, it's all right. It's good to hear.
I have a,
I'm sure many other people would like to need to know this information too, so.
Well, particularly people who may be watching who are already running hairdressing out of their house.
I'm sure they're shaking right now.
They're,
I have a comment.
they might be here at the town board to support you.
I have a quick comment. I too agree with the board, but I would strongly encourage you to try to get it legalized. Your neighbors that you have now are your neighbors. They may not always be your neighbors.
True.
So if you're doing hair there, if they're not your neighbor, they don't appreciate you doing hair there. Plus, some of your clients can get disgruntled or something of that nature. So you don't want anybody to call up and say you have an illegal business going on there. Then you have to disrupt your whole business to try to get that squared away.
Thank you.
Any further input from the board? Since this is an interpretation appeal and not a request for a variance, there is no public hearing with respect to this, right? Yeah, okay. So this case will be closed, and we will be in recess, for about 5 minutes. We'll be back. Taking longer than I had announced. Is anyone here? I see that she's still here for the 360 Rochester for 65 Brower Road. I also believe that the folks from 360 Rock Beach Road are still here, as are the folks from 426 Rawlinson, and 1688 North Winton has left. So we'll just go down for the first time in a long time, we'll go down the applications in the order they appear on our agenda. So, with respect to the application pertaining to 65 Brower Road, this is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion that we grant the request as presented by the applicant based on the following findings of fact.
A second.
Well, I gotta give
He's
the,
gotta
I gotta
facts
give the evidence here. So as far as a couple of things that stuck out to me was there were some questions about the tree staying and the utilities were staying in place. So it's not gonna change the character of the neighborhood or impact the environmental conditions of the neighborhood. It is self-created. They want to put a sign in. However, it's not gonna impact the project. There's no illumination on the sign. The safety issues are mitigated because it sounds like it's within, the sign is within the right of way. It's not a substantial request. I think it's only a couple of feet difference. Not going to change the character of the neighborhood. They have the whole building there, and they just need the sign on that portion of the road. And that's it. And so I asked the board to consider the request as presented.
And Mr. Evans is second to
That's
that
second.
motion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor. No opposed, no abstentions. No one is absent. The board is fully constituted. Next item on the agenda is the application pertaining to 360 Rock Beach Road. This is also type 2 action for seeker purposes. I'll make a motion that we approve, grant the variance as requested with the following findings of fact. This will not result in any negative change to the character of the neighborhood. It's just adding residential space. This is a residential neighborhood, and so it's consistent with the existing character of the neighborhood. The alternatives that wouldn't require a variance would make it impossible and impracticable to add living space in the place where it's most accessible and least aesthetically intrusive on the property. It's substantial in the sense that they're adding a substantial amount of space, but it doesn't enlarge the footprint, and it's not really going to change the exterior appearance to any significant undesirable extent. There will be no negative physical or environmental effect if it's granted. It's self-created in the sense that the homeowner wishes to have additional living space and remain in the house, but that's not a sufficient basis to deny the application. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, did you get Mr. Upson or Mr. Antini?
Mr. Antini.
Thank you.
Mr. Upson will be next.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. No members are absent. The board is fully constituted. Next item is the application pertaining to 426 Rawlinson Road. This is also a type 2 seeker application for seeker purposes. Mr. Upson wanted to make a motion on this, I think, right?
Yeah, I'll move that we grant the variance as requested. Adding this deck is not going to change, it's not going to change the characteristics of the neighborhood. They have other alternatives, but they would not, none of them that would allow that deck to be built up there. And obviously, the null alternative is not satisfactory to the homeowner. It's not a substantial variance. It's a small deck between an existing deck and the extension of the house. It will not have any adverse physical or environmental impacts on the neighborhood. Although it is self-created, again, the homeowner wants to have the deck up there, and that should not be a reason to disallow it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. No one is absent. The board is fully constituted. The next item on the agenda is the appeal pertaining to 1688 North Winton Road and the denial of a home occupation permit. I would make a motion on this that we deny the,
Can we say that we affirm?
Yeah, or uphold.
yeah, I was just, right. We will affirm the decision. I would move that we affirm the decision of the town official who interpreted the code to exclude the applicant's proposed use from the definition of home occupation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, nobody's absent. The board is fully constituted. Now, with respect to this application, I would also make a motion that we recommend to the town board that the town board review the occupations that are listed in subsection 7A of that section as permitted uses, and those that are listed in subsection B as non-permitted uses, and give consideration to whether professional services such as a hairdresser on an appointment-only basis, as the applicant presented, only one client at a time, should be given further consideration as to being a permitted home occupation as opposed to an excluded home occupation.
I'll
I'll
second
second
that.
that. I'll second that. But was that,
Sounds like everybody seconded it.
Jim, was that B and C or was that A and B?
A and B. It was 7A and 7B. 7A listed what the permitted home occupation uses were, and 7B is where the
Exclusions.
exclusions were that included, oh, no, I'm sorry.
Chair, I believe it's 7B and 7C.
You were correct. Sorry. Thank you. All right, so wherever I said A, substitute B, and wherever I said B, substitute C in that resolution, okay?
Sure.
All right. So since just about everybody seconded, I think I know how this is going. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The resolution carries 7 votes in favor, no opposed. No members of the board are absent. We are fully constituted. I believe that concludes all of the business that we have before us this evening. Anyone have any other new business? Seeing none, I'll move that we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. The board is fully constituted, no one is absent, and we are adjourned.